Behind the car!
Fuck yeah.
Alright, motherfuckers. Alright, you fucking sexy people. Let's cook with some fucking conspiracy theories. Alright, I'm gonna go all in on this one. Okay, guys, are you ready? Alright, is female narcissism being weaponized to subvert and attack the West by Marxist and feminists with Chinese backers? And all of this subversion would have been funded and have occurred during mainly the Korean and Vietnam War, when we were embroiled in a proxy war with both the Soviet Union and China. So first off, we're going to go through the indicators of female narcissism. Then I'm going to go through the real life examples of things that have happened, which tend to make me believe that they are instances of female narcissism. After that, I'm going to go into how these were used in strategy to attack certain things which are in line with Marxist goals. So we'll basically do it in 3 parts. Righto, so first part would basically be the indicators of female narcissism. Excessive sense of self-importance, fantasies of power and success and importance, excessive need for validation, entitlement, exploiting others. That's going to come in handy when we're talking about IPs and the corruption of IPs. They tend to respond with reprisal and reputation destruction after criticism. They never admit fault and continue with whatever behaviour they're doing. Incredibly petty, and they are obsessed with status and virtue. They also use sex appeal to coerce and play the victim after the fact when they have done something wrong. Righto, so starting with excessive sense of self-importance, basically every interview with a Disney character trying to reinvent classic fairy tales to inject new Marxist terrible feminist ideas. Basically they always fail, and then the narcissists respond out of narcissistic reprisal and pettiness to attack the fan base who calls their work shit, basically. I suppose it also extends to women overrepresenting their market value when they're single mothers, and expecting, very, very tall, rich men to take care of their children that they've had with other men, that sort of thing. Like, excessive sense of self-importance, and entitlement. Okay, in regard to IPs, this would be the indicator of exploiting others. Obviously, lately, there's been a ton of female writers taking original successful IPs, just like things like She-Hulk, Star Wars, that sort of thing, and they're injecting it with all this feminist ideas. Like the latest iteration of this would be Star Wars, the Force being born from, the lesbian witches and, matriarchy and all that sort of bloody thing. Obviously, after this is criticised, they tend to respond with reprisal and reputation destruction, particularly with men, often labelling them as racist, sexist, homophobic, and all this sort of thing after they've injected their feminism, LGBTQ, and race Marxism plot lines into original IPs, and subsequently the IPs tank. They never take responsibility. They attempt to insult the fan base at that point by calling them incels and all that sort of thing, which indicates to me like extreme pettiness. They're obviously obsessed with status and virtue. That was one of them. You can see this in the virtue signaling with the LGBTQ throughout all of their conquered IPs, and the virtue signaling. Even lately, with our most recent review of Prey, we were able to see like virtue signaling of traditional, tribal people, and they weren't represented as basically, less organised Mongolian horse archers that massacred, gang raped settlers and tortured other tribes to death and that sort of thing. They weren't represented as that, or as represented as, sort of like an equal society where men and women just do their own thing. There is an unspoken law about them, and they never fight, never murder each other, that sort of thing. Which is obviously not the case, but, virtue signalling of that. You can see it in race and gender swapping. One of the most recent examples of this was Last of Us, where they race swapped 3 characters and then injected one humongous LGBTQ wet dream into the Frank and Bill story, rather than having the original Bill be sort of avoidant, meant to be part of Joel's arc. But yeah, that sort of thing. In response to the criticism of that, none of them took responsibility for basically butchering the story of The Last of Us, which is, again, never admitting fault, responding with reprisal and reputation destruction by attempting to label them as homophobic, for calling out their LGBT butchering of the story and pushing of gender and queer theory and feminism, the lot of it. So, all of this appears to me to be female narcissism. Empowered, weaponized female narcissism, particularly in art, weaponized against the West to destroy cultural identity. So, those are the general tactics and indicators. So, what would be the strategy? In my opinion, there are 2 main strategies here being employed. The first is to destroy the culture and cultural identity, and the second is to destroy the family unit. First of all, with the culture, you've got your cultural revolution in China, which is basically what they're attempting to do now. They're attempting to destroy the cultural identity to make you less resistant to both government authoritarianism, totalitarianism, and less resistant to policy, make you more compliant, essentially, because you will have no cultural identity. They're doing this by corrupting and destroying all classic literature. Like, obviously in China they were destroying temples and all those lovely dragon monuments and all that sort of thing. Like, you can read more into it if you want more detail. There's a good book by Mark Picotta called The Cultural Revolution. It basically goes into all the different things they did. But the idea here is not so much physical destruction, like with book burnings and stuff like that. It's more about the destruction and corruption of the IPs, the intellectual properties. So the original classic stories that everyone knows and loves, which has crafted the Western free cultural identity, they're attempting basically to corrupt those with Marxist values, in order to destroy or corrupt those original stories and the values in them. They do this in all sorts of ways, making male characters completely incompetent or evil rapists, one or the other, race swapping, gender swapping, empowered female leads, in excessive gay stories in them, stuff like that. Representation of every single race, which is like unnecessary for a story, and unrealistic. Like, some races are like less than 10% of the population, and to have them equally represented in a movie, it's completely unnecessary. Like, it's also creepy and authoritarian in the art to say you must represent these people. Like, that is a control of art which shouldn't exist, particularly when it's Marxist in nature. It comes across very historically authoritarian and in line with communist and Marxist countries, which, you know, they're shit, they're horrible. They have no moral high ground at all to stand on. They have killed, like, way more people than the West. It's like, it's not even close. The other intention, by showing all the Marxist queer theory, highly sexualized, progressive plot points in movies, is just to give you something to conform to condition and normalize pretty much degenerate behavior, to make it normalized and to present it as popular in popular culture when it's really the gatekeepers that choose the stories, and induce you to conform to that normalized behavior. And obviously that brings us into the second strategy, which is the destruction of the family unit. So how are they attempting to destroy the family unit in popular culture? Well, basically, since they control the stories that go through, and especially with things like diversity quotas and that sort of thing, and we've been told for so long that sex sells, and they also control, with policy, basically YouTube, most social media, Google search results, that sort of thing. The promotion of sexuality and free love in popular culture and social media, that would in turn increase promiscuity, which reduces pair bonding, and obviously after you've had more than 4 sexual partners, there's less than a 50% chance of a successful long-term relationship with kids. So that would be one attack on the family unit. The next would be the subtle demonization of tradition, marriage, and monogamous relationships as boring, repressive, or outdated. Like, even in mediums like The Last of Us Part 2, traditions such as the Seraphites are demonized, and it acts sort of as a straw man to Christianity, given that the main figure in it is a martyred saint, theoretically, that was able to conduct miracles, and she was kind and turned the other cheek. Essentially a one-to-one for Jesus. But what they don't understand is violent tribal behavior tends to have different figures. Like, for example, Islam, the Prophet Muhammad was obviously a sex slaver with a child bride, a warlord, had the strength of 20 men, had the sexual strength of 20 men, that sort of thing. So, tribal violent societies are... they have different values behind them. Christianity doesn't lend itself well to the forming of violent tribal society. I mean, just take a look at the Free West. It's the richest, most successful, most well put together, society that's ever been. You've got free speech. You can say whatever you want on the internet. You can say whatever you want in real life. Like, you won't be persecuted by the government, killed. You won't be thrown in jail. You won't be given a $5 or a $10 for criticizing the government. Like, okay, that's directly Christianity. It is directly Christianity through English common law and the American Bill of Rights and the colonization brought about by those. But again, we're a little off topic. The idea was the demonization of tradition and monogamous relationships and marriage. The theory being, if you undermine that, you undermine the likelihood of a married, happy family forming with healthy children and a healthy relationship with parents. Instead, what you would tend to get is either a single parenthood sort of situation brought about by promiscuity by both partners, and a damaged child as a result that is much more susceptible to government, reprogramming and that sort of thing. In addition to that, obviously there would be more chaos within the society because children from single parent backgrounds tend to get into gang-related activity more, have more mental illness, be more addicted to drugs, be more impulsively violent, like that sort of thing. They're not as well-rounded, they're not as structured in society. They are much more impulsive. Also, without a father figure, they tend to lack in skills, and because of that lack in skills, lack in status, and because of that lack in status, tend to be more resentful of hierarchy and structure. You're basically dealing with a clay that is much more likely to be part of a revolution, which is the ultimate Marxist goal. Righto, the next one would be the normalization of cheating and single motherhood and the glorification of promiscuity in popular culture. Again, the same principle as before, it's just to increase promiscuity. Again, it gives you an example to conform to without you thinking it, a suggestion through conditioning for you to conform to. And since it is selected for by gatekeepers in media and social media as something popular that gains attention, you are likely to interpret it as a popular, trendy sort of thing to do, and more likely to conform with that behaviour, which results in the destruction of the family unit, which is another, in my opinion, psyop deliberately targeting the family unit. The next would be the amplification of porn, modelling, progressive open relationships, and OnlyFans through social media, Google searching, basically internet, that sort of thing. It offers a suggestion of behaviour to conform to, which would again increase promiscuity, decrease the chance of a successful, happy long-term relationship and marriage, which would tend to lead to single parenthood, which would tend to lead to better revolutionary clay for the Marxists and easier to program clay for the Marxists.
Whoa. will be the last thing you see! Can't have gone far.
Okay.
What the?
Get out of here.